Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Yanamurtim Dvandvatitam Ganganasadrisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Narayanam Padmabhavam Vashishtam Shaktim Chatat Putra Parasarancha Vyasam Sukham Godapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogendra Mata Shishisham Sri Shankaracharya Matasya Padmaha Padam Chahasta Malakancha Shisham Tam Totikam Bhartika Karamanyan Asmad Gurum Chantatam Anatoshmihi Vishwam Darpanadrishya Madinagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyanatmani Mayaya Bhaihurivod Bhutam Yata Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanameva Dvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om. Okay, good. I'm going to start at the beginning. And the first teaching, these teachings are inquiries. You're meant to think about them. You're not meant to just believe them. You should have faith in the teaching, but you should also investigate using your own common sense and reason to see if it makes sense. Vedanta is just practical, logical, common sense knowledge. There's a great statement by the Buddha. I love this statement. He said, believe nothing you have read or anything you have heard, even if I have said it. Buddha was the big spiritual genius, the big master of his day. He says, don't believe what you've read or what you've heard, even if I said it. He said, unless it corresponds to common sense and reason. It should make sense. It's got to be practical. There has to be knowledge or logic to it. Because this whole universe is a very logical, well put together, carefully thought out creation. The human body, the human mind, the material world, it's all an amazing projection of knowledge, a creation made out of knowledge. And it works so beautifully because it's completely logical. There's nothing mysterious about it. I know that may sound, oh my God, you say there's nothing mysterious? Well, the self is very mysterious. People love in the spiritual world, they love this idea of mystery. And there's nothing mysterious here. Everything makes complete sense. Everything makes perfect sense. This is why enlightened people relax and enjoy themselves, because they know everything is beautifully taken care of. It's all logical. And once you understand the structure of reality, the way it is created, the way it's set up, you will just relax. You'll see it's a beautiful creation, and you're a beautiful being. And you're doing your part here, whether you know it or not. So, I want you to question this But take it on board with faith if you can't accept it immediately. And then keep working with it until it makes sense to you. Sometimes this first teaching should make good sense. But it's very difficult to accept because you'll see why as we go. Because all of our beliefs are based upon duality. On our belief that reality is a duality. And Vedanta says just the opposite. It says that reality is non-dual. Now, if reality is non-dual, you're going to have a completely different vision than if reality is dual. We want our vision to be based upon the nature of reality, not based on the nature of our own desires and fears and conditioning and so forth. This teaching is called the Purusharthas. Again, I remind you, I'm giving you just a few Sanskrit terms to refer to the source of the teachings. To show you that this is from Vedanta, not from me. You'll understand as this teaching unfolds how logical and sensible it is. Please try to follow the logic. Now what this teaching says, this inquiry, it says there are 4 human pursuits. In other words, there are 4 things that human beings want in life. There are many more, but this is just 4 basic categories of objects that we pursue. Our life is basically centered around the pursuit of objects. We want things. Is there anybody in this room that doesn't want things? Good, that's right. That's right. No hands go up. Because everybody wants, nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with wanting things at all. It's just natural. So if you say, well, I shouldn't want things, that's the problem. Well, no. You don't have any choice about wanting. You don't wake up in the morning and think, well, what shall I want today? Do you? What do I want today? Your wants are already laid out for you. You immediately want to do this and want to do that. And you have all your desires are already set up, and they're causing you to act and go for certain things in this world. It's the way it is. So there are 4 broad categories of objects that people want. And we're all the same. Don't think, oh, I'm different, I'm special. I don't fit into this. This is just true for everybody. See, this is why I can talk to you all as one person, because we're all just one person. You may think, oh, I'm special, I'm unique, I'm different, I'm not like everybody else. No, you're just like everybody else. Vedanta talks to that deeper person that's the same as everything. It's the same as everyone. And the first thing, the most basic want that we have is called artha. It means security. Does anybody want to be insecure? See? No hands go up again. Nobody wants to be insecure. Everybody wants to be secure. Now, why do I want to be secure? Because life is insecure, isn't it? Life is very uncertain. I never know what's going to happen next. And that's not a good feeling. Enlightened people don't have a problem with security. Why? Because their sense of security is not based upon what's happening in their lives. Their sense of security comes from themselves. And since the self is always present, then they're always secure. But worldly people, you and I, ordinary people, we're always feeling insecure. And so we're always looking for objects that will secure us. We want a good job. We want a loving relationship. An emotional security. That's why you want a relationship. If you were emotionally secure, you wouldn't be interested in a relationship. You'd have lots of people who would love you, and you'd love lots of people, but there wouldn't be any need for a relationship. You go to work every day, because why? Because it doesn't feel good not to have money. You feel insecure if you don't have money in your pocket. You don't have proper food, and you don't have a proper place to stay, and life is very difficult without money. Isn't it? Yeah. It's natural to seek security. That when you feel secure, let's say financially, that's the big one, isn't it? The money business. Where's the money coming from? Because money is a strange thing. It seems to always disappear. Even when you have a lot of it, it's always going out. It's the way it is. So I'm always worried about money. Why? Because I feel insecure. And I feel that by gaining this money, then I will be secure. That's just our fundamental psychology. Everybody is like that. Now, when I get enough money, and you'll see that here in Germany and in America and in the West, in these societies that we're living in, when you get enough money, do you feel good and secure all the time? Is this that? No? No, it doesn't. That's right. It doesn't end the problem, does it? The problem doesn't stop. You still have desire. You still feel unsettled. You still feel incomplete. Okay, I've got enough money to live for the rest of my life. I know some people like that. They have more money. They couldn't spend it all in this life. Their children and their children's children will be fine because they have so much money. But are they sitting at home or sitting under the tree in the park enjoying themselves, relaxing? No. What do I do when I feel secure financially? I go for kama. Kama means pleasure, entertainment, luxury. Look at these societies. I mean, it's unbelievable. I just came through the transportation grid. And I think more than half the people were all sitting there are like this. On the plane in front of me was a woman, and she had 4 children, boys, young boys, everyone, maybe 4, 5, 6, and 7, like that. And all 4 of those boys had their own computers, game consoles. I was amazed. I looked over the seat and watching them play. They played the whole flight, all 3 hours, and they fought with each other over the things. And the one, they were teaching each other how to, it was a Grand Theft Auto or something in there. And they're just like obsessed with these machines, and they're going like this and bumping each other and going like that. And their mother's yelling at them. And they had a big bag of potato chips, crisps. And they're just stuffing their faces with the chips. And when those chips were finished, she gets another huge bag out of her bag, and she puts it in front of them, and they're just eating the chips. And then the chips make them thirsty, and they want a Coca-Cola. So they call to get another Coca-Cola. Pleasure, entertainment, luxury. Look at the sports. Sex. Oh, that's a good one. Huh? As soon as you got enough money, then the sex thought comes in your mind. Look at the internet, the pornography. Look at the billboards and so forth and so on. Well, why are we so interested in entertainment, in walking through the terminal, all of these luxury goods? Unbelievable. And they've set the airports up in such a way that you can't just walk directly to your gate. To get to your gate, you have to go through this shop. And they've got everything, perfume and alcohol and chocolate and just useless things that nobody needs at all. Things that actually make you sick and are hard on your body. All those things that are not good for you, people are buying right and left, stuck in their bags, duty-free, carrying all home, all these luxuries. Useless goods to make them feel good. Now, why do I need those things? I feel that I need those things. Why? Because I don't feel good. I'm not entertaining. I'm bored. I'm okay. I'm secure financially. I've got my job. I've got this and I've got that. Whatever it is. I've got my secure relationship. But I don't feel good in myself. So what do? I try to do activities and gain objects that make me feel good emotionally. Isn't it? So even though I'm satisfied materially, I'm not satisfied emotionally. I search pleasure. Power. In the ashrams. This ashram's obviously an exception. But in the ashram, they had the people with the clipboard, that go around checking everything. Power people. You're going to see. That's it. The boss. People gravitate to positions of power. Politicians, a policeman, various occupations. In all occupations, in all walks of life, you have people looking for power. They want to control other people and control situations. Why is that interesting to you or to me, to gain power? See, what's the psychology operating here? I feel weak, small, incomplete, powerless. There was a guru from India, you may have heard of him, a long time ago, 25, 30 years ago. And he obviously felt very small because he needed 93 Rolls Royces to drive in. See, luxury and power. He only got 93 before his ashram collapsed. But he wanted 365 so that he could have a ride in a different automobile, a different Rolls Royce every day, because he was bored with. And he wore his robes. He had puffy robes that stuck up like this, and he wore this little person. He had big shoes. He wanted to be big. He wanted to be powerful. He had thousands of devotees all over and flew in the fancy jet planes, had a Cartier wristwatch and all that sort of power, and talk to thousands and thousands of people, inspired many people. But inside, could not be comfortable with small things, with just everyday things. Why? Because he felt powerless. He tried to manipulate the political system in America, and that didn't work. But in any case, so we have this desire to what? For power. We want to control the people around us. We want to control our families, our children, our husbands, our wives. If you look in any relationship, there's always a power component. There's always a struggle between the man and the woman. Because they're two very different conditionings. Man is one particular kind of conditioning, and a woman's another kind of conditioning. And I identify with myself as a man or a woman, and I feel that I am in competition with the man or the woman, depending on who I am. And so I'm always struggling for an advantage, for a power, to see if I can get my way. Isn't it? Why? Because I feel powerless. I think if I can get the power, then I feel good. A knowledge. Some people feel, why do I search? They want to gain knowledge. That was my particular pursuit. I grew up very, very young. I loved knowledge. I just wanted to know everything. I read books and everything and talked to people. I was just so crazy. Why? Because I felt ignorant. You know, people who just accumulate knowledge and accumulate knowledge. The perennial student who goes to, he's 45 or 50 years old and he still hasn't left university. He's taking another degree, and another degree, and another degree, and going on, wants to gain more and more and more and more knowledge. Makes him feel secure, makes him feel happy, makes him feel complete, makes him feel whole. Now, if we look at what other pursuits are there, there's so many things we chase in this life, but those are the basic things: money, pleasure, sex, power. I can't think of any more right now. That's enough. Now, when you look at all of those pursuits, they're all object-oriented, aren't they? They're good definition here. We have to stop and get a good definition here, because to build our inquiry, we need to be on the same page as far as the words are concerned. When I say a word, when I say tree, you've got to understand what a tree is. If I say tree and you see a cat, it's not going to work. If I say dog and you see an automobile, that's not going to work. We have to be on the same page with the words so that I can teach you. So when I said, what? I said, all of these pursuits are object-oriented. We need to define what an object is. Okay? And this gets right down to the very, very basic nature of my experience. An object is anything other than me. There's me. In the statements we've made so far, there's me, the one who searches security, searches pleasure, searches, oh, I know what I forgot. Hey, an important one. We'll just back up for a minute. Virtue. It's called dharma. Dhamma or dharma. People, what? Want to be good. You know? Spiritual people particularly, they want to be spiritual. They want to be kind. They want to be loving. They want to be sweet. They want to be nice. They want, And so they do all these things. Psychological people, they go to this psychologist. What? They don't feel virtuous. They feel there's something wrong with them. You know how in these cultures, your parents, when you're first born, they love you like, they're just hugging you and kissing you and just taking good care of you. But as soon as you're able to think, I don't know how long it takes. It just takes a little while. Then they start telling you there's something wrong with you. Isn't it? These are the people that love you. They loved you as long as you were just a little blob of fat and energy. They loved that, and they saw themselves there. As soon as you started to think, they started to tell you there's something wrong with you. Isn't that in Christian cultures? Isn't that right? Original sin. You're born a sinner. You're born a bad person. And you have to do all of these things, what? So that you'll be good, so world can love you, so you can love yourself. You've got to redeem yourself by doing all these good actions. Isn't it? Why? Why do I search for virtue? Because I feel what? I don't feel like I'm virtuous. I don't feel like I'm a good person. Kama, artha, dhamma. Dhamma means virtue in this context. Dharma has many meanings, which we will just explore as we go along. The pursuit of virtue is an object. The pursuit of wealth is an object. The pursuit of pleasure is an object. It's something other than me. So my life, as I understand it now, and by the end of this teaching, you may look at your life rather differently, one hopes. My life, as I understand it now, is what? Me and various objects that I pursue, that I try to gain or get for my happiness. To make myself feel good about myself, to give myself pleasure, remove a sense of boredom, to make myself feel secure, to make myself feel powerful. And whatever other thing. Always what? Always, every minute of the day, me, I, the person, the subject, is pursuing an object that will complete me or fulfill me. This is just the bedrock psychology of all human beings. Animals and so forth, and the animal kingdom doesn't bother with this sort of thing because they're not self-conscious and they don't feel insecure. They're just programs. So they just follow their programs. They follow their dharmas. Ishvara, or God, programs with a certain nature, puts them in a certain field, and they just do what they do. And they don't pursue things to make themselves feel good. They don't have a problem with themselves. They just do what they do. But humans are different. Because we have what? Intellect. We're self-reflective. We can look at ourselves. Animals can't look at themselves and say, there's something wrong with me. Because all their consciousness is extroverted. It's outside. And they're not thinking beings. They're what? They're programmed. They're instinctual beings. So, when I pursue an object, I feel it is essential for my happiness. So I believe that what? That the objects are the source of happiness. Isn't it? Now, an object doesn't mean just a physical object. It means a situation, a circumstance, an experience. And remember, anything other than me is an object. Got to get this very clear. A relationship is an object. It's something other than me. It's not tangible. You can't touch it like a chair. It's intangible. but it's something other than me, or something I feel is other than me. And the whole purpose, is to complete myself, because I feel incomplete. I feel separate from the object. And I feel if I can draw that object to me, I'll erase this sense of separation or duality that's motivating my actions. This fundamental sense of duality. Now, and so I believe that the happiness that I'm looking for, and everyone wants to be happy. Does anybody want to be unhappy? Please raise your hand. All people who would like to be unhappy? Nobody raises their hands. Hey, why not? Because everybody wants to be happy. So I feel that by getting this, I will gain happiness. And therefore, I believe that happiness actually is there in the objects, don't I? I think the objects are real, and I think they're the source of happiness. If you knew they weren't the source of happiness and they weren't real, would you chase them? Would you go for these things if you knew they were not real and that they don't have any happiness in them? No, you wouldn't do it, would you? You only do it because you think, those are real things, and if I get them, I will be happy. For example, love. Okay, let's do the love thing. Because everybody wants love, don't they? That's a big one. I want to love, and I want to be loved. And that generally involves what? Getting love from another person. Everybody wants somebody to love them. Isn't it right? Don't say, oh no, I don't care. You care. We all care. We all want to be loved by somebody else. And so I feel lonely. That's a natural feeling, to feel lonely. I feel separate. I feel like if I could only find somebody, Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, let's call it like that. There is some magical, beautiful, wonderful person out there that if I could just meet them and I could just magnetize them, attract them into my life, then we'd connect and we'd be happy. Isn't that right? Yeah. And you have in your mind you have a fantasy person, don't you? Huh? You're always scanning. I know men are. I don't know about the women. But men are always scanning around. They have this perfect woman in their mind. And if she doesn't fit, they just don't look at her. But they're always looking for the next one. Because you have this, and women do too. Everybody does. Everybody has the perfect person stuck in their mind somewhere. And they feel if that perfect person were to come, then I could be completely happy. And so you go to a satsang, say they're spiritual, okay, spiritual person. And you go to a satsang, you go to an ashram, and suddenly, boom, you see somebody, beautiful woman, a beautiful man. Oh my God. And there's just this, and they look at you, and you fit their fantasy too. Woo, huh? That's the problem with love. Both fantasies have to work together. So you look at them, and they look at you, and zzz, it's like electric current. It's like you've been switched on, and suddenly you're high, and you feel all this glow, and there's a glow around that person, and there's a glow around you, and you come together and you start talking. And it feels so good. It feels so wonderful. And one thing leads to another, and you've already fallen in love, and then you start hooking up your lives and so forth and so on. And when you have your relationship, right? One day, you're all happy there. You're having your breakfast in the morning, your muesli, and your bread and your cheese if you're German, and your yogurt. You're having stirring the oatmeal or the coffee. You're drinking your little coffee, or going to have your coffee, and suddenly you realize, oh, we're out of cream, no milk. I think your husband or your boyfriend says, I think I'll go to the store and get some milk because I can't drink my coffee without my milk. It's just not perfect that way. And the store is just 5 minutes away. So off he goes to get some milk for the coffee. And after 5 minutes, you look at your wife and you go, what? He should be here now. And after 10 minutes, he's still not there. And after 15 minutes, he's gone. Huh? And then you start thinking, oh my God, that girl that's selling that in the store, she's a serious babe. I'll bet he's hooking up with her right now. Huh? And he doesn't show up. Huh? And what happens when even the thought, something else actually happened. He wasn't chatting up the girl at the counter in the store at all. But some other weird situation happened and he couldn't come back and he forgot his cell phone, so he couldn't call you. And what happens when you think the thought that you're about to lose, that you've lost your love? Huh? You know, all these relationships are just full of anxiety. Why? Because you always feel that the lover or the love can go away, isn't it? Can be lost. This is why you're so nervous and so possessive and so controlling in relationships, because you don't want to lose that object. And when the object actually goes, or it looks like the object, even if it looks like the object's going to go, even if you worry that your object is going to run away from you, what happens? You collapse emotionally. You get incredibly unhappy. Now, what does that prove? That proves that you think the joy is in the object. Isn't it? The happiness that you're feeling, the joy, the satisfaction you're feeling, you believe it is intimately connected to the object, that person is necessary for your happiness. And now listen, mind you, you can't be blamed for feeling that way. You shouldn't feel bad for feeling that way because it actually looks like the joy is coming from the object when you get the object. Before you weren't happy, now the object comes, and now I am happy, and I believe that the happiness came with the object. Mind you, this is very important to understand this psychology. We're not on and off, we're not saying good for relationships or bad for relationships or anything. We're just trying to understand our own psychology. And this is just a good example of that psychology. And we've come to a very important and crucial point in our inquiry, in our first investigation, our first inquiry. When I get what I want, it does seem as if the joy is coming from the object. Is that true? Mind you, don't say yes. If you want to keep dreaming, don't say yes, because now we're catching you here. Because if it's not true, then what? You're going to have to give up on the objects, aren't you? If it's not true. If it's true, then you keep chasing objects. But if it's not true, then what? You're wasting your time chasing objects. So we have to determine whether or not it's true that the joy is actually in the object. And what is the source of the joy, the happiness, the peace, the contentment, the satisfaction, the power, whatever you want to call it, and whatever that subjective feeling of well-being is that we're all searching for, that happiness? Well, it seems like it is in the object. But sorry to say, it's not in the object. Why does it look like it's in the object? Okay, now understand this. Why? Why does it look like it's in the object? Because when I get what I want, what happens? What is attracting or holding the object to me? This is the law of attraction. What is attracting the object to me? Keeping the object in my field. It's my desire. Either my fear of loss or my desire to gain. One of the two, either way. This desire that I have is magnetizing or holding the object in my field of energy. Isn't it? And that's what tracks the object. When I see you and you look at me and you think I'm beautiful, if I desire you, then you're going to cut. You're going to come close to me, aren't you? And if I desire you, I'm going to come close to you. That energy that's pulling us together is called desire. Now, when the object appears and is close to me, and it's clear that we're attracted to each other and that we love each other, that we're connected to each other, when it's clear that we're connected, what happens to the desire? I've been lonely, I've been full of desire for this relationship for a long, 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 long time. And now what? Mr. or Mrs. Right appears, and we connect. And what happens to the desire? It disappears. Doesn't it? When you got what you want, you don't want what you got. Isn't that right? Huh? Why would you want what you already have? You only want what you don't have. But now you have what you want. And so what happens to your desire? Your desire disappears. And you start to enjoy the object. Before, you just wanted the object. Before, you were just in a state of desire for the object. Now that the object is there, you're enjoying the object. And your desire has disappeared. Is the enjoyment actually coming from the object? Now, this is the key point. This is a point you need to understand very clearly. And it's counterintuitive. It means it's against all of your beliefs. What happens is this. If the object was producing the joy for you, then that object should produce the same amount of joy for anybody else, shouldn't it? But does it? No, it doesn't. Think about it. If it's food or pleasure or sex, whatever it is, these are all objects, power, whatever it is, you name it, good job, anything like that. If the joy was in the object, then the object would supply anybody with that joy. Could do that, but it isn't that way at all. The things that make me happy don't make you happy. The things that make you happy don't make me happy. That's just a fact. Which means what? The joy, the happiness has to be coming from me, not from the object. Think about this now. Then what has happened here? What has happened is this. I am the source of the joy. In other words, the happiness that I'm seeking out there in objects is actually, I already have that happiness, that fullness, that joy, that completeness, that satisfaction, that enjoyment. I'm already got everything I want right here in the form of my own self. But I'm not seeing it, I'm not appreciating it, I'm not enjoying it. Why? Because the desire is separating me from it. And when the object comes, the object is like a catalyst. And a catalyst is something that what does it do? It takes away the desire. And when the desire is removed, the joy that I am, I get in contact with the joy of my own nature. We call it anandam. The bliss or the joy or the happiness or the satisfaction of my nature suddenly floods my mind. My mind was before what? Agitated with desire. Now the object comes, my mind becomes quiet, and what? And the joy or the bliss of myself fills my mind, and my mind feels happy. Vedanta Psychology 101. That's the first teaching. Understand this very well. Because you can't proceed on the path to enlightenment. It's just not going to work as long as you think that the joy is coming from the objects. It's not going to work. You just stay right in samsara and you just keep chasing the objects over and over and over again till you figure it out. A smart person will learn from this teaching and take the teaching to be true. But, stubborn people, and many of us spiritual people are very stubborn. We're rebellious. We don't want anybody to tell us anything. Oh, never mind, that can't be so. I'll do it myself. I'll prove that it's not true. Isn't it? Yeah. Well, then you go right ahead and keep trying to find what? Happiness in objects. Even if you say that there is happiness in objects, even if you say that, is that happiness that, okay, we'll give you that. Okay, you say there's joy in objects. Well, then tell me this. If that's what you say. Does that happiness last? Anybody think that it lasts? It doesn't last. No, again, no hands go up. Because everybody knows that joy that comes from objects doesn't last. We say there's no joy in objects in the first place, but if you believe there is, then okay, we'll give you that. But does that happiness last? No. Well, okay, it doesn't last. Are you satisfied with what? Temporary happiness? Huh? No. Nobody's satisfied with temporary happiness. Now, when I get what I want, it is not, understand this, there's still a little more to this teaching. When I get what I want, I don't really want the object. Gotta get this clear. I don't really want the object. You name it. Everybody's got different objects they want. You don't really want what you want. What do you want? You want freedom from the sense of limitation that object implies. You don't want security, you want what? Freedom from insecurity. You don't want pleasure, you want what? Freedom from the craving for pleasure. You don't want to be good, you want to be free of the feeling that you're bad. That there's something wrong with you. Understand. It's never the object that you want. It's freedom from a subjective sense of limitation that that object implies. This is a tough one. This is a hard one. If you can get over this one, then you're good to go. Well, actually we have at every stage of this teaching, we have more problems. You know, I could just talk to you and seduce you and tell you all sorts of nonsense, and you'd love it. You know, I'd make you feel spiritual and high and vague, and we'd all go off walking like angels and fairies and feeling wonderful. But Vedanta's not that kind of teaching. We tell you the good side, and we tell you the bad side. It's bad, you know, for my ego, for me, it's bad news that there's no happiness in objects, isn't it? It's bad news. Why is it bad news? Because all I'm doing all my life is chasing objects for the happiness, you see? This is what we call a mature person. A mature person understands that what? There's no happiness. Kids think there's happiness in objects. Children. You can't expect them to not think that way. But as you grow up and as you analyze your life and you analyze the situation, you discover, hey, the joy that I thought was there in the money and the sex and the power and the education and the fame and all those various things isn't actually there at all. It's a big disillusionment, isn't it? Usually we're chasing spirituality because we actually don't believe that the joy is in the objects. We've tried in the world, we've tried relationships and jobs and all those things, and we realize, hey, it doesn't work. It can't be there. But we still have a tendency to look for another object. The tendency to seek for objects outside ourselves to complete ourselves is incredibly powerful. It's really, really, really strong. And this is the fight or the war that we're going to have with ourselves when we practice self-inquiry. We have it anyway. But at least self-inquiry has a solution. And you can get out of this conflict in yourself if you can, through understanding, if you understand what's actually happening. Knowledge will set you free. Knowledge of yourself. Now we're talking about the ego, the jiva, the individual person. This is where we always start. We're going to leave the self out of it. All that wonderful stuff. That comes later. But right now we're just talking about the individual person. Pursuing objects to what? To complete themselves. How are we doing here? Yeah, we go till 9, huh? Are you okay? Do you need a break? Okay, good. Can you do an hour and a half? Okay, good. So, just to repeat, and this education is like that. You have to repeat it over and over. Because I want you to get this idea firmly fixed in your mind. Because the next teaching is going to depend upon this idea. The next teaching won't make sense unless you can accept this idea. Okay. Now, if the freedom from limitation, the freedom from dependence, this is what we call moksha. Moksha means freedom. You've all heard the word moksha? I think everybody in this room. Moksha means freedom. That's the Sanskrit word. It comes from the root muk, M-U-C, and it means to be free, or freedom. So, moksha, or freedom, is freedom from dependence upon objects. That's our definition. Freedom from the sense of limitation that causes me to be dependent on objects for my happiness. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I don't have to worry about the objects. I'll just get this other thing called the self. I'll just transcend, and I'll have all my objects, and what? I'll get the subject, I'll get the self. I'll experience the self or whatever it is. I'll gain that, and then, that will be a wonderful object to have. I'll have all my normal stuff, my everyday objects, that'll keep me happy, and then I'll get the spiritual happiness on top of it. We're going to examine this notion next. And this is going to be even more painful. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I should feel sorry for you. So, I want to be what? Free of my dependence upon objects. And even if there is temporary happiness in particular objects, that's not good enough. So doesn't it stand to reason then? Doesn't it make sense? Isn't it logical? And we want to run our lives with logic. We want to run our lives with knowledge, not with emotions. Emotions are all wonderful and all that, but they're not that wonderful. We want to run our mind from our lives from knowledge, because knowledge is something you can count on. Knowledge is something is always present. It always works. That's knowledge. Knowledge is what you can't dismiss or negate or remove. Knowledge is what's always good and always true. And we want our lives to be based upon knowledge, not on just the feelings that come up here and there, on emotions. If you're just jerked around by your emotions, right and left, you're an unhappy person. Oh no, it just feels so wonderful to feel. Life is all about feeling, you know. It's a warm, fuzzy thing. No, feelings are okay, but they're not okay too. Basing your life on how you feel is the wrong way to go. It will only produce more pain and suffering for you. Base your life on knowledge, on what's true and what's good and what's real. And you'll never go wrong. You'll always be happy. So, I want what? I want freedom from a sense of limitation. Why not go for freedom directly? Why go for it indirectly through objects? I get an object and I feel free for a little while. That's indirect experience. Why not go directly for freedom? So in our system, in a Vedic system, we have what? Kama, Artha, Dhamma, and Moksha. These are four called Purusharthas. See, if I am the source, if I am free, if the freedom that I seek is me, if I am free, then why not go directly for freedom? You see, the problem with objects is what? They're sometimes present and sometimes absent, isn't it? Objects are not constant. They don't. But what about me? What about me? Am I always present? Yes, I am. Have a look. Is there any time when you're not present? No. There's never a moment when you're not present. If there's never a moment when you're not present, and your nature is freedom, or satisfaction, or completeness, or love, whatever you want to call it, and that's what you want to be free, then why not what? Go directly for what? Understanding or knowledge of myself. Since it's only lack of understanding or knowledge of myself that's causing me to chase the objects. Why not just go directly for the freedom? That's called moksha. That's the fourth pursuit. Kama, artha, pleasure, security, virtue, and what? And freedom. Moksha. Doesn't that make sense? Look at the logic. You cannot argue with this logic. It's just it's the common sense logic of your own experience. Now, your ego may have a reasons for keeping you from appreciating this logic. Why? Simply because you're attached to your belief that joy is in the objects. But if you're really honest, you'll say, hey, that's true. What Vedanta is saying is actually true. It's just what? The universal knowledge that comes from the experience of everyone. It may take you a while to come to this conclusion. Take your time, think about it, but you will come to the conclusion at some point that what? There is no lasting happiness to be found in objects outside yourself. Remember, reality is what? Me, the subject, and objects. That's all life is. Is there anything else? Is there anything else to your experience than that? Look at your experience. No, there's not. There's me, a conscious being, and what? And objects that present themselves to me. Experiences and people and places and things and circumstances and so forth and so on. Feelings and thoughts, these are all objects. Right? All these things are constantly presenting themselves to me, and I'm the what? The witness of those things. I'm the one that experiences those things. That's all there is to life. See how we're reducing, we're making it simple now. Because self-inquiry is very simple. It's difficult. As one of our presidents said, it may be simple, but it sure ain't easy. Yeah, it's a simple problem, but it's not an easy problem. Simply because of my beliefs that are standing in the way. And this path of inquiry is a path of losing, of getting rid of something, getting rid, not of any object, not of any relationship in the world or situation in the world, but getting free of the ignorance that's keeping me tied to the objects. I'm always in a dialogue with this ignorance because ignorance is hardwired. Ignorance is built in. We call it Maya. It's ignorance of what? Of my nature that causes me what? To chase objects. That's called Maya. How many have heard the word Maya? Nearly everybody here knows the word Maya. That's what Maya means. It's ignorance of my nature, of myself. And that ignorance causes me, we call it, that ignorance is called tamoguna, or tamas, darkness. It hides, it's an energy that hides the reality of myself, from myself. And it's made up, and the other aspect of that ignorance is called rajas, rajoguna. And that rajas projects the idea that the objects are the source of happiness. And this is Maya is operating in every human mind. Denial and projection. Everybody's got it. It's universal. It comes from Ishwara, oh God, from Maya. I don't see what I am, and therefore I what? Misunderstand that the objects can complete me. Tamas and rajas. Denial and projections. Ignorance and what? And desire. Okay. I want to be free. I'm going for freedom directly. Now, when I am, and this just happens. All you people in this room must have come to this conclusion. I want to be free. I want enlightenment. I want moksha. I want samadhi. I want nirvana. Who knows? Whatever. Everybody, I want my kundalini to go up. I want Shiva and Shakti to have a big orgasm, and I want to be happy. Whatever it is. Huh? That's when I leave the samsara. Samsara means what? What never stays the same from one moment to the next. That's the meaning of samsara. Samsara is like a whirlpool. It just keeps going round and round, and things keep changing all the time, and I keep doing actions. We'll see later on when we get to karma yoga and these various and other teachings what samsara is. But I want to leave samsara, which means just say the worldly life, and I want to go into the spiritual life and what? And get moksha. So that's where we find ourselves. And most people are out there, they don't know. They're not interested in anything. They're just chasing objects. You know that. You know, go out in the world, that's all. You just look around. Talk to anybody. 99.9% of the people are just chasing stuff. They want security, pleasure, virtue, whatever it is, power. That's the world. But now I've realized, hey, there's no joy in those things. And I want moksha. I'm spiritual now. I give up on that. Now, when you come to the spiritual world, again, this is another problem here. And this one may be even more difficult for you to accept. Because spiritual people don't like to hear this teaching. Please don't blame me, okay? I'm really a nice person. But it's just my duty, it's just my duty as a teacher to teach Vedanta, and this is what Vedanta says. So don't blame me, okay? Now, when I come to the spiritual world, I'm told what? That there is a special object that I can gain that will set me free. A particular, remember, we said an experience is an object, right? Experiences are objects. Now understand this clearly. Your experiences are known to you, aren't they? Because you can describe your experiences. You are the witness of your experiences. So whatever experience you're having at any time is known to you. Which means it's not you, isn't it? Isn't that right? Does anybody have a problem with that? It's a very difficult one. Mind you, it may seem on the surface very easy to say yes, but it's very difficult to say that. Why? Because I'm very much identified and attached to my experiences. I actually think what I'm experiencing is real and is me. But experience is just an object. Now we're having the satsang experience, and Ram is teaching, Vedanta. And in what, 20 minutes, we won't be having the Ram teaching Vedanta experience. We'll have the breakfast experience or whatever the next experience is, won't it? I'll be still the same person. I just won't be having this experience. I'll be having another experience. And that experience will be known to me. It won't be me. So I'll always be the same, but experiences will continue to happen to me, in me, around me, through me, however you want to look at it. So now I'm told that if I want to get out of my suffering, suffering means I'm just not happy with myself and with the world, not happy with life. If I want to improve my life and make it better, there is an object that I could get that will make me happy permanently. There is a permanent happiness object to be gained. And what is that permanent happiness object? Moksha! I don't have freedom, but I can get freedom. I can gain freedom. By what? How would I gain freedom? How would I do that? Well, I'd get what? Nirvana. I'd get samadhi. I'd get transcendental consciousness. I'd get my kundalini wiggling up there and zip out of my body and get me into that higher state of consciousness, into that perfected, transcendental state of consciousness. I would jump out of or leap over or destroy my ego, get my ego out of the way so that I can experience oneness, experience wholeness and completeness. And how would I go about doing that? How would I achieve that? Well, I'd take up some kind of spiritual practice, wouldn't I? Yeah. Everybody said, I'd chant a mantra, I'd meditate, I'd pray, I'd fast, whatever. You very well know the spiritual world. It's just, everybody's got a path to enlightenment, don't they? And that path to enlightenment involves what? Doing certain actions. Any path involves doing certain actions. Vedanta's a pathless path. Because we don't tell you what to do. We're not going to tell you what to do. So thank God for that, huh? Let other people tell you what to do. Huh? We'll leave that to them. We're just going to teach you knowledge, give you knowledge. Knowledge doesn't imply doing anything. Knowledge is just knowledge, just understanding. The knowledge will really set you free. Will action set me free, is the question. See, this is inquiry number 2. And the title of this talk is Experience and Knowledge. If you've read my book, you'll know it's chapter 2 in my book. If you haven't read the book, I suggest you get the book and read it, because even though I'll teach it to you now, it's good to, you'll have all the arguments will all be fleshed out very carefully there. It will be a very, either in a freeing and enlightening chapter, it will be a very irritating chapter, and you'll throw the book away. Again, because this idea is going to hit at the heart of what? Of my seeking. It's going to strike right at the heart of my spiritual pursuits. We're not saying there's anything wrong with pursuing spirituality. You're here, you're supposed to be here, Bhagawan has put you here, and that's the way it is. So you're fine. But there's still a problem with this spiritual seeking and this spiritual doing. Understand? Okay, now, so I'm told that if I practice, let's say, meditation or yoga or something, I can I can gain this experience of oneness or wholeness or completeness. We're not saying there's no value to meditation and no value to yoga. We're going to endorse yoga. We're going to endorse meditation. Believe me, it's very good. It's absolutely perfect. And you should not give up on your spiritual efforts, mind you. But we're saying this, let's analyze the situation carefully and see if action can produce the result that we want. This is a matter of action and its results. This is a talk on karma. Now, what I want is limitless. Isn't that correct? Freedom is limitless. Freedom means no limits. I do not want to be limited by objects, by my dependence upon objects. That feeling of limitation is killing me. That's wearing me out. That's why I'm getting old and gray and tired. Because I have this dependence. I'm like a child. Even though I'm an adult with gray hair, I still feel dependent upon objects. It's driving me crazy. So I want to be free of that. I want to be limitless. No boundaries, no borders, no limitations on me. Now, when I do an action, whatever it is, and you do an action, Is the result of that action limitless or is it limited? What's the answer? Limited. The doer, the person that I think I am, that doer, is that doer limited or is that doer limitless? It's limited. If the doer was limitless, then it wouldn't have a freedom problem, would it? It wouldn't. If the doer was limitless, the doer wouldn't be seeking freedom because the doer would already be free. But the doer is that part of yourself that feels limited, feels small, feels inadequate, feels incomplete. Right? And so whatever actions that doer does, and we're not saying you're the doer, we're just saying you probably think you're the doer. Whatever that action that doer does is only going to be what? Produce a limited result, isn't it? That's your own experience. Everything you do has a limited result. It has a result. But as time passes, that result disappears, and I'm forced to do another action to produce another result. And my whole life is what? Doing actions to gain results. That's why I do what I do, because I want results. Unfortunately, the result that I really want is what? Limitless. Limitlessness. I want to be free. So, can I get free by doing anything? That's right. No. Short answer, no. Long answer, no. All answers, no. I'm sorry to say. More bad news, right? Because there's part of me that believes that if I keep doing these spiritual actions, praying and meditating and fasting and chanting and going to satsangs and doing all this sort of thing, that what? That at some point I'm going to experience wholeness, I'm going to experience completeness, I'm going to experience freedom, I'm going to what? Gain this wonderful, amazing, transcendental thing that's going to what? End I search for what? Happiness. This is the myth of enlightenment. The myth of experiential enlightenment. This is why I work so hard. Spiritually. Get up early in the morning. Oh my God, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. Sit and meditate. Watching my breath in and out. Oh my God, all the efforts I'm doing and doing. And yet at the end of the day, am I free? No, I just didn't get it. It just didn't happen. Tomorrow it will happen. Right? And to be fair, just like in the worldly world, when you get something you want, you get love or money or whatever, you feel good for a minute. When you do a spiritual actions, you do these meditations, you get these various samadhis, these various satori's, these various nirvanas, these various epiphanies. You get them. And there are moments when, again, what? When you feel happy and whole and complete and satisfied. Oh, I'm so high. I'm in the zone, baby. Nice. It's all inside. I feel so free and wonderful and loving and whole and everything's great. Because what? These actions produce what? Spiritual results. They produce the feeling of what? Of wholeness and completeness and satisfaction. And what happens to that feeling? Oh, I'm going to make it permanent. Why do they always say in the experiential world? Well, yes, that's right. You experienced yourself. You experienced samadhi. You got your nirvana, no doubt, but now you have to make it permanent. Right? Isn't that a belief that we have? That we can make this state permanent? You can't do it. You can't make this state permanent. You know why? Because this state of experience is a state of experience. It's experiential enlightenment. And experiential enlightenment is in samsara. It's just another experience. Yes, it's a spiritual experience. Yes, it was caused by different actions, but what? It's only experience. And experience by its very nature is going to change. Bad news. Very bad news. If I'm pursuing what? Experiential enlightenment, this is bad news. Because I want an experience that doesn't change. And there's no such thing as an experience that doesn't change. By its very definition, experience means change. It's anitya. Anitya means impermanent. And even if there was a permanent experience, could I generate or make that experience happen? Because experience is not under my control. Discrete experiences, special experiences, immediate experiences, I have some control over. But experience itself, I don't have any control over. That's what, who's controlling or what's controlling the experience that I have? Ishvara, Bhagawan, the self. In the form of what? Of the creator and the giver of the results of action. So experience is not under my control. Very simple daily experiences I can change. Those come and go, but experience itself, what? Is by its very nature impermanent. Whether you call it a spiritual experience or a worldly experience, it doesn't matter. It's just in the realm of time. And it will not last. That's why, you get your satori, you get your samadhi, you feel good for a day or a week or a month. I met a fellow years ago in India. He was quite a famous Japanese person. He was an artist and he was known nationally in Japan. He was wealthy and he was a nice-looking man. He had everything. And one day he was skiing down Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is this beautiful volcanic mountain in Japan. And in the winter it snows. And he was skiing down this mountain. And he entered in a state of nirvana or samadhi or whatever you call it. He said it was the most amazing experience. It was so great. And people in extreme sports, they're samadhi junkies. They love that experience of oneness and completeness and wholeness, that thrill of being present and alive and alert. And that's what extreme sports do to you. That's what happened to him. And he got in this, my nephew was like that. He was one of these extreme sports guys. He had broke his body about 20 times, just doing all these extraordinary things. He liked to get in that state. And that state was so exhilarating and so wonderful. He did working a normal job and all that thing. It wasn't much. But he could go on the ski slopes or on his mountain bike and jump out of airplanes and do weird things. And that would give him that experience. Well, this guy was skiing down Mount Fuji, and he got in a state of nirvana or samadhi or satori or whatever you want to call it. And it lasted for 4 years. He said it was the most incredible thing. He thought, I'm enlightened. He said, this is enlightenment. In Japan, they know all about enlightenment. It's an old tradition there. And he said, life was so cool. I had everything before, but there were always problems. But now, he said, everything just flowed smoothly. It was just like being on a magic carpet. Life was on greased wheels, and it just went on and on. The women came, or money came, fame came, everything he wanted just, he's enjoying. 4 years it went off, and one day what? Boom, off it went. Suddenly he's back down there as a little normal, everyday person, like picking his nose and worrying about, where did my samadhi go? And I met him in India, in an ashram of a saint, trying to get back his satori, his samadhi. 4 years he had. I've been in the spiritual world for a long, long time, and I've heard everybody's stories. And I had all the same things myself. I'm talking from experience now. If you want to read my autobiography, you can get that and read it. I had more samadhis than you could shake a stick at. I had satoris and transcendental experiences you can read in the book. You think, my God, that was a lucky person. But it wasn't. I was lucky, but I wasn't lucky. Why? At the end of the day, after 4 years of these intense, amazing experiences, what happened? I was still the same old guy. I had no money. My girlfriend had left me. I hadn't finished my education. I felt miserable after all those lovely experiences. And that very day I met my guru, I decided to give up spirituality altogether. I said, I can't do this anymore. This is just too much. This is just too much. I'm working my ass off like this, working so hard. I was meditating. I did pranayama. I did every possible thing. I swallowed. I had kundalini experiences. I went to a kundalini yoga. I had all kinds of amazing experiences. And at the end of the day, what? Nothing. Still the same old jerk. Still. And I said, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to try to be a normal person. Now, that was hard. That was a hard decision to come to, because I was never a normal person. We're not normal people as spiritual types. We're quite different, quite unique as people. So the point is what? Anything I can do is only going to produce a limited result. This is the point. And since moksha, or liberation, is limitless, action will not solve the problem. Now, we're not saying you shouldn't act. We're not saying you shouldn't do your spiritual work. You should. In fact, the spiritual work is absolutely necessary, or you won't get what? Free. But the spiritual work will not set you free. It will prepare your mind to understand that you're already free. Mind you, na karmana, na prajaya, danena, tyagini ke amritatvamana shuhu. Not by karma can you get there. Not by acts of charity can you get there. Not by having children and offspring will you attain immortality. Only by what? Tyagini ke amritatvamana shuhu. You will get that knowledge of yourself as an immortal being, as a changeless, infinite, free being. What? Only by letting go, tyagini ke, only by letting go of the notions, the ideas you have in your mind about who you are. Because we say you're already free. And if you're already free, then action is not going to solve the problem, is it? It's not going to work.
Krishna, Krishna,